So there were three big losses in the world of college football on Saturday. What's up, Jonathan? Welcome to the Shooting the Schmidt YouTube channel. And, I wanted to talk about these yesterday, but I also wanted to talk NFL, so I decided to push college football talk to today because obviously the final regular season edition of the college football playoff rankings come out tonight. We're going to have a pretty good idea of who's going to make the college football playoff versus who isn't after the rankings come out tonight. And obviously the three big losses over the weekend, Ohio State, Clemson, and Miami, all three lose. First and foremost, Ohio State fans, Ryan Day should not be fired. Point blank. Okay, I get it. You've lost to Michigan 4 years in a row. It sucks. No one likes to lose to their rival. I personally am an Arkansas fan. We've lost to Missouri 8 out of the last 9 years. So I get it. It sucks. It's not fun, but Ryan Day is still one of the top five coaches in the sport, and you're not going to hire anybody better. It's just not going to happen. So Ryan Day shouldn't be fired. Don't care that he's lost 4 years in a row. Clemson losing to South Carolina isn't surprising if you've watched, South Carolina and Sellers play, and you've watched this defensive line that South Carolina's put together. If you've seen them absolutely dominate, right? So South Carolina beating Clemson, Clemson a team that hasn't played a good team all year. I mean, like they haven't. They caught a break with Miami losing. They're gonna have a chance to make the college football playoff, which is a little annoying just because, like they haven't really beaten anybody good. Their three best opponents have been Louisville, Louisville, South Carolina, and then there's another team in there that's decent, but like they lost all three of them. Like they haven't beaten a good team. Georgia, that's the other team. They haven't beaten a good team all year. Their wins are over teams like Wake Forest. It's like, come on now. So Clemson having a chance to make the CFP is a little annoying, but I'd be surprised if they beat SMU on Saturday, just because, like I said, they have every good team they have played, they have fallen short. So Clemson loses. Their hopes are now dependent on that ACC championship game. Miami, I don't think has any hope. They lose to a really good Syracuse team who's turned things around. Kyle McCord has a lot of success against average and below average defenses. If you've seen Miami play, then calling them average would be really nice. But because I don't think that they're even average on defense. And when you ask your offense to score 45 points a week, I don't care if you have Cam Ward or not, you're gonna lose games. Like that's just the reality of it. They're 10-2. I wouldn't put them in, but we're gonna see what the committee does tonight. And the reason why I bring up all these losses is because, especially this Miami one, is that it seemed that Miami was going to be set to host a home playoff game, right? They were going to be the 7th seed, maybe the 8th seed, but now I think they're going to be on the outside looking in. So who do they give the opportunity to host a home playoff game to? So obviously the top four seeds all get buys. Those are all going to be the conference championship winners from Saturday. And then the 5, 6, 7, and 8 seeds all host. Okay? Three teams I think are locks to host this weekend. You got the 5 seed, which is probably going to be Notre Dame, which is really annoying because Notre Dame's best win this year is Army. Okay? Sure, I know they beat A&M early in the year, but A&M's not ranked anymore. And so, like, they went 8-4. So, like, is it still a good win? Sure, but the only team that Notre Dame has beaten this year that is still ranked is Army, and that's not impressive to me. It's just not. But they're going to be the 5 seed. They're going to have the easiest path to the college football playoff, championship game, which is kind of nuts. So they're going to be the 5 seed. The 6 seed, I think, is likely going to be whoever loses the SEC championship game, Georgia or Texas. Which makes sense because those are two really good football teams. So whoever loses that game will be sitting, probably at 6. No, probably at 7 because whoever sits at 6 is going to be the loser of the Big Ten championship game between Penn State, which is insane, and Oregon because I don't think Penn State's very good either. But that's beside the point. So the committee's going to have a choice to make when it comes to handing out that final home playoff game And I think we're going to have a pretty good idea of who that's going to be after tonight and after the rankings come out. And I think they're going to choose between SMU, if they lose to Clemson, Ohio State, obviously, Tennessee, or Indiana. Those are kind of the four teams that I think that they'll look at to kind of grab that final spot. And the answer is pretty obvious. It's probably going to be Ohio State, but I do think that Indiana has a real case to host that final playoff spot. They just do. Now, obviously, it's predicated on not having a bad loss, right? Because when you look at SMU, I think that if they lose to Clemson, I know that the playoff committee has said that they aren't going to dink teams for losing conference championship games, but I don't, I kind of believe them. I kind of don't. Like, I don't think that if SMU, for example, loses to Clemson, I don't think it will knock SMU out of the college football playoff bracket. I do think that it would hurt their seeding. And I think it would hurt them to a point where they didn't get to host a home playoff game. So there's kind of my thoughts on SMU and why I don't think that they would be the host. Indiana has a real case because they're 11-1. Like of the other three teams outside of SMU, when you look at Indiana, Tennessee, and Ohio State, Indiana has the best record, and they don't have a bad loss. That would be the argument for Indiana because Tennessee lost on the road to a 6-6 Arkansas team earlier in the year. Ohio State lost at home to 7-5 Michigan. Like those are both bad losses. Okay, and obviously the argument for Indiana falls apart when you look at what happened when they went on the road to Columbus. But I don't think that the committee always cares about head to head. I just don't. Like I know that we think that they do, and a lot of times they do, but like I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if the committee ranked South Carolina ahead of Alabama this week. Because, I mean, because South Carolina, I think, is better than Alabama. And if that's what the committee thinks, then they're going to rank them in front of Alabama, even though Alabama beat them earlier in the year, what was a wild and crazy game. The committee has ranked Texas in front of Georgia the entire year, even though Georgia went into Texas and beat the absolute dog out of them. So, yes, Ohio State has the head-to-head, but Indiana's 11-1. They have less losses, which is a really dumb reason to rank someone in front, but we've seen the committee do it. They're doing it with Texas and Georgia. They've done it, the entire time that they've done the rankings. And so I think it's going to be Ohio State. I think Ohio State is going to be the 8th seed. They'll have the final home playoff game. But if they gave it to Indiana or Tennessee, I wouldn't really be surprised in the slightest. I think Ohio State grabs the 8th seed, and then they play probably Tennessee, who's going to be the 9, and then they'll have Indiana in the 10 playing, the loser of Texas and Georgia, which it won't be fun for whoever gets the 10 seed. I mean, honestly, I'd rather be the 12. I'd rather play Notre Dame than the loser of the SEC championship game. And yeah, So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on who's going to host the final playoff game or the final home playoff game. I've got my own personal rankings. I am going to run through them really quickly. Number 1, I've got Oregon, undefeated, Big Ten regular season champ, wins over Boise State and Ohio State. Enough said. Number 2, I've got Texas. They won the SEC, the best conference in the country. They finally have a decent win, right? They go on the road to Notre Dame. They go on the road to Texas A&M, and they went on the road. They don't allow an offensive touchdown, just a really dominant performance from the defense. Number 3, I've got Georgia. I know that they barely beat Georgia Tech, but they came back from down 17-0. Like, you could also look at it from that perspective. They're clearly really good. They've got the best one in the country going on the road and beating Texas, so I've got them 3rd. I would rank Tennessee 4th. They're really good, right? People were really high on them just to start the year because they went into Norman and they blew out Oklahoma, but then they lose to Arkansas, and everyone kind of jumped off. They just kind of jumped off the ship. But they're still really talented. That defense is still really good. Nico Iamaleava has gotten better throughout the season, had 4 touchdown passes against Vanderbilt on Saturday. So, like, they're really good. I've got them at 4. I would rank Ohio State 5th. They're still awesome. They still have one of the best rosters in the country. They still have the best receiving core in the country. Ryan Day is still a really good head coach. I'm not going to get all bent out of shape because Ohio State lost to Michigan. Something that I just kind of expect now at this point, and I know it hurts your soul, Ohio State fans, hearing me say that I just expect them to lose to Michigan every year, but they're still one of the best teams in the country. I would rank them 5th. I'd put Indiana at 6. I'd love to rank Indiana in front of Ohio State, but they got boat raced when they played. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to justify it. These are rankings, not standings. Ohio State's better than Indiana, so I'm going to put them at 5. Indiana, really good football team, blown out every bad team that they've played. That has to mean something, so I've got them at 6. Number 7 is where I will rank Notre Dame. I rank Indiana in front of Notre Dame because that Northern Illinois loss has to matter at some point. Like, is Notre Dame better than Indiana? I don't know. I'm not convinced that they are. I don't have a ton of faith in Riley Leonard, even though he's gotten better throughout the season. I don't think that their receivers on the outside are super great. So I've got Notre Dame at number 7 because that Northern Illinois loss has to count, and I just don't know how talented they are on the outside. I got Penn State 8th. I think Oregon's going to beat the absolute dog out of them. I don't think that game is going to be close. I don't like Penn State's offense. It's not explosive enough. I like their defense, but I don't love their defense. And I'm sorry, but you're not going to run the table in the college football playoff if you aren't explosive on offense. You aren't. And so I've got them 8th. I thought that, Ohio State's they fumbled the ball through the back of the end zone when they played Penn State earlier in the year on the road. Will Howard threw a really bad pick 6. Like, Penn State was not that far away from looking like Indiana in that game against Ohio State earlier in the year. Number 9, SMU. They won the ACC, so they have to be ranked in the top 10. The issue is they haven't beaten anyone good. Their best wins Louisville or Pitt. Congrats, you lost to BYU in a close one. But, I mean, that's really it. They're in if they can win on Saturday. With a lack of a signature win, it's just hard to rank them higher. Number 10, I've got South Carolina. I don't care that they're 9-3. They have wins over Clemson, Texas A&M, and Missouri. Those 3 wins are better than a lot of the other teams that are going to be ranked around them. They don't have a bad loss. That's why I have them ranked 10th. I feel like it's slim pickings at this point. Number 11, Arizona State. They're as good a story this year as Indiana. They went 3-9 last year, 10-2 this year. They have a chance to solidify their spot in the college football playoff by beating Iowa State on Saturday, and I hope they do because they're a fantastic story. And then 12th, no one's going to like it. I don't even like it. I have Alabama. I don't like it. I refuse to rank Boise State. Their best wins over UNLV. Their second best win is Washington State. That's not impressive. People have beaten up on Indiana all year for a lack of a good schedule, but Indiana's at least blown out all of their opponents. Boise State has not done that. So I'm going to put in Alabama. I don't like it. But they beat Georgia. Like, that's impressive. They beat South Carolina. They beat Missouri. I do think that they'll be left out of the playoff. That's why I have them 12th. They'll end up getting pushed out by somebody. Probably Boise State or whoever, or UNLV, whoever wins that game. That's what will likely happen there. If Alabama gets in, though, over someone like South Carolina, or like if SMU loses and they put Alabama in over them, I will be upset because this is not a normal Alabama team. So there it is. There's my top 12. There's who I think is also going to host a home college football playoff game. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to check out my video. Let me know your thoughts on the rankings after they come out tonight. Let me know your personal rankings as well. Also, give me your thoughts on Boise State. Because am I alone in this? Am I the only one who doesn't think that they deserve to be ranked in the top 12? Let me know in the comments. Thank you again for watching the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.